Boys and girls, welcome back to another virtual career day. I think the most exciting part about this is we get to see more careers than we would if we were at career day, because career day has 18 presenters that come, but we usually only get to see 8 or 9. We are going to get to see all of them this time around, and we have one of our favorites. Some of you might remember him if you've seen him before as the cookie guy. Welcome back, Mr. Baker. Baber, sorry,
Guys, good to
Mr.
see you.
Baber.
That's close enough. It's been said a lot of ways.
The cookie just got me thinking of baking. Robby, welcome back. Go ahead. We're so glad that you're here.
Hi guys, I'm so happy to be here actually to share with you my experience of working at Price Chopper. So I started working for Price Chopper about 2.5 years ago. I think it was in May, so it's actually almost been 3 years since I started working there. I started off working as an assistant store manager, and what that means is that it's my job to run all the operations of the store, and that means anything that goes on inside of that store, I have to be able to know how to do or to be able to know how to handle. And that could be a fun job to do every single day. You have a lot of interesting things that pop up, and it's your job to make sure that you don't stress out about them, but you make sure you take care of them and that the customers are happy. I actually started working in the grocery business when I was 25, 26 years old. And I started working in a health food store, and I transitioned that job into a grocery manager position, and I transitioned that job into being able to be a store manager for Price Chopper. So I've worked in grocery for a really long time. It's a very fun job because who doesn't need groceries, right? Everybody needs groceries. I get to work with people, and that's always another favorite part of my job. I really enjoy people, and people can come in and I get to, make them smile or make their day a little bit better and help them find the things that they need for their families. And I'm sure all of you have been to the grocery store with your parents. They may not always take you because they don't want to add to their carts, but I bet they take you every once in a while. And so I get to see a lot of kids. And after working in the same store for about 2 years, I know a lot of the families and a lot of the kids. So it's nice to see familiar faces. They know who I am. They know me by name. I've gotten to create some really good friendships with a lot of the parents and also the kids who are always happy to come up and give me a hug and say hi. And at this point, I actually know what they're looking for when they come in. So I know where to find their favorite foods. Obviously, you guys know that at a grocery store, it's where you can get all the things that you need. So bread, milk, cereal, which is my favorite. My daughter, her favorite thing right now is popcorn. So we go through a lot of popcorn. So she always has to have some of that. You can also get things like meat and cheese. What else can you get there? Oh, and I forgot my favorite things, cookies, which you can get from the bakery. And so because of all the things that you can get at the grocery store, there's actually a lot of different areas that you can work in the grocery store. The one I work at has a deli, so where you would make food and people could come in and order food and eat, or you would make sandwiches and things for people to grab and take for their lunches. It also has a bakery where you can get cookies and cakes. And we actually have one of the best cake decorators in the company. Her name is Stacy. She does a lot of birthday cakes, so we see a lot of popular things like Minecraft and Fortnite cakes and things like that. And for the girls, we see lots of unicorns and lots of princesses. We also have a meat department, and we have a seafood department. We also have dairy, and then we have frozen. Another job that you can do is we have cashiers. So those are the people that you would see when you go to ring up all your groceries, and they scan all of your items. And then we also have sackers, and usually those are the younger employees. They usually are 15, 16, 17-year-old high school kids who just need a part-time job. And so they come in and their job is to sack the groceries. I brought a sack with me with some groceries that have been sacked. I sacked this myself, so I'm probably not as good as they are, but it's the best I could do. And I got a few items in there. The cool thing about being a sacker is that you can start doing that as soon as you are probably a sophomore, maybe in high school when you reach the age of 16. Price Chopper doesn't hire sackers until you are 16. Once you do that, you can start working. And Price Chopper provides you a uniform and a name tag, and at that point, you're in the store, and you have access to all the customers that come through. It's your job to kind of try to get a smile on their face if you can. It's also your job to make sure that you sack their groceries in a way that it's not too heavy and the bag doesn't rip, but we get as many items as we can into that bag safely. Another job in the store is working in the customer service department. Those are a lot of our people that handle the front end. So they handle the cashiers and the sackers. They also handle those that are out running and getting carts for the lobby. A lot of times those are sackers as well. And sometimes that can be a fun job, and sometimes it can be a cold or a very hot job, depending on the weather outside. I always thought it was very fun to go out and get the carts because you get a chance to get outside and get some fresh air. Part of my job, let's talk a little bit about my job as far as the store manager job goes. Another part of my job is I build displays. And so if you're ever walking into a grocery store and you see little things at the end of the aisles that are called end caps, that's another part of my job, is planning those out and building them. And Price Chopper has very specific rules about the way that they want their end caps built. And after years and years of doing it, I've learned some tricks to not have to repeat myself and do it over and over again. I can do it pretty much, get it right the first time. If you ever do this job, make sure you start at the bottom of the end cap and build your way up. Because if you start at the top, you may not have enough room when you get down to the bottom. Or you'll have way too much room, and then you got to fix it. Another part of my job is dealing with employees. So yes, my job is hiring and firing employees. And that always seems to be something that interests you guys whenever I come in and we talk about it. Yes, I have had to fire employees because they were not doing exactly what they were being asked to do for their job. But I will say, for the most part, I work with just fantastic people. My store had about 250, 270 employees, and I knew every single one of them. They were all great. And yes, there were a couple that didn't show up for work, or showed up for work and may have had a poor attitude or something like that. And so we had to have some conversations, but it's not, you're usually given chances. So it doesn't just happen automatically. Usually you're pulled in and maybe talked to over a little bit about your attitude, and remember that customers can see you, and customers want to have a great experience when they come in the grocery store. They don't want to deal with a negative attitude. So something for you guys to remember when you get into those jobs is one thing that you can actually control is your attitude and the way that you deal with customers. So keep that in mind when you get to that point. Normally during this little interaction, I usually will give you guys a store map and have you guys throw some things out. That's always my favorite time of these, and unfortunately we won't be able to do that now. I still think you would not be able to stump me, but it is always a fun time. I wish that there was more I could talk to you guys about. I appreciate you guys listening to me. I hope you're staying at home and staying safe and still working on your schoolwork, because it is very, very important regardless of whether or not you're at home or at school. And I hope to be able to see you guys all next year, and we'll talk more. Thanks.
All right, so Robby, one of the things that we talked about in our interactions and in our emails was the story about your boss. And
Yep.
So can you tell us more about your boss? Because I know that you, maybe it's hard to think like someday. I talked with another person, and he started as a volunteer worker in Boys and Girls Club, and he's currently the CEO of Boys and Girls Club. Like,
Oh, wow.
his life has taken him in this really big turn. Like, he worked as a night person there and helped out, and now here he is. And you and I were talking about a similar story with your boss. Can you share that a little bit?
Sure. Actually, I worked with a guy. His name is Dan Scazzoletti. I don't think he would mind if I shared his name with you. He was the best boss I've ever actually worked for. He was a great teaching mentor of a boss. And Dan has worked for Price Chopper for 37 years, I believe. So he's been there a long time. And he is a store director for the Price Chopper in Blue Springs. Before that, he was a store director for a Price Chopper in South Lee Summit. And then he's been a store director at several other stores during his time with them. But Dan started off at 15 years old as a sacker. So I can't remember which store he started at, but he started out in the same job that anybody else can start in. All you have to do is apply when you turn 16 and you're sacking groceries. And Dan started sacking groceries, and he turned that into working his way through the company. And he was a department manager at some point, and then worked as an assistant manager, and then worked his way up to where they trusted him enough to let him have one of their stores. And now he's had several of their stores. And Dan is he is a very good creator of a solid culture and a family-like environment. And so Dan proved himself to the owners of Price Chopper by working hard, showing up for work every single day, not complaining, and doing whatever was asked of him. And he ended up turning that into where now he's very successful. He runs one of the biggest stores in for the company, and the numbers are up, and the customer count is up, and so he's doing very, very well in what he's doing. And again, he started off just making minimum wage as a sacker, just like anybody else can do when they start at 16.
And I love that. I love that, you know, some people, school is not, you know, they make it through, they're trying to fight their way, they're trying to get their GED or their graduate high school, and then past that, they can't just see that space. But like, you can go into jobs and you can find a job and you can work your way through the chain just by showing one of the biggest things Mr. Andrew talks about every day, which is grit. Work hard and be kind. Like, those are pretty basic school rules that we have. Work hard and be kind.
Yeah, I worked grocery store when I was 16. I actually worked at Taco Bell, another one of my favorite jobs. But if you work at a fast food restaurant or a grocery store, you have an opportunity where they promote from within. So if you get there and you show up for work and you prove that you're a hard worker, you can be successful, and you don't necessarily have to go to school to be promoted. Dan didn't go to college. I think he tried college for a little bit, but realized it wasn't for him, and he didn't want to be an accountant. So he instead went back to working for Price Chopper, and now he's very successful, and doesn't, he has a high school diploma. He didn't have to go to college in order to do that. He just had to work really hard, like you said, show true grit, and just get in there, and you just kind of put your head down and do the work that's given to you, and prove yourself to those that are in charge.
That's pretty amazing. I loved what you talked about when you talked about your in-cap failure, because we talk all the time also in school about, you're going to fail, and it's okay as long as you learn from your failures. And it sounds like you failed a time or two or in your in-cap, but then you got it perfectly, where you're like, now I've got it down.
Oh yeah, definitely I've had enough time to make enough mistakes to learn from those mistakes. And I think, like you said, it's so very important to learn from mistakes. Mistakes are not setbacks, they're opportunities to learn and to make yourself better. So if you see them as that way, you'll be successful.
Perfect. Okay, so I've got a couple to stump you with. Let's see, what aisle is coconut on?
Coconut in what form? Shredded? Can?
Oh, shredded coconut.
It's
sweetened.
in aisle 8 by the other baking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else could I stump you with? How about canned jalapenos?
Canned jalapenos are in aisle 6, which is where all the Hispanic food is, which is tricky because jarred jalapenos are in another aisle. They're in aisle 1 with the condiments. So that's a tricky one. You almost got me.
Yes. Well, I thought I'd try. Okay, so a couple questions that we always ask our presenters are, number one, what school is required for you to do your job?
I would say you need to get through all of the required schools. So you have to get through high school. You have to have a high school diploma in order to have the job that I have. Now,
Okay.
obviously, you can start working before you would get your diploma by being a sacker.
Perfect. And you say that, I have to tell you that I worked for your competitor.
Oh no.
I know, but I was going to school, I was going to college, and it was a job I could work at night, and I was a cashier for a while, and they saw me work hard, so they ended up putting me as a price checker, and they knew my hours, so it'd be late at night, and I just go through and make sure the prices were right that needed to be right. So
right. Hey, that's okay. I'm just happy when people are successful. If you like your job, then that's okay with me.
Yep. And then what is your favorite part of your job?
Honestly, the people, both the people that I work with and then also the customers that come in. That's always the highlight of my day. I'm a people person, so being able to be out there and be around them and do what I can to make them laugh or make them smile, or or the reverse, where if they can do that for me, then that's my favorite part of working in that environment.
Now, I do have to say, I love to hear that because there's some kids out there that I can think of right now that love to talk. Talk, 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 talk. They love to talk. And this would be a great job. Like, that's what
Now,
you do a lot for the day.
I will say this. That's what the grocery store business is. These customers, a lot of times they come in and that's what they want. They want to sit around and talk to the regulars, the employees that they know, from coming in there so often. They literally want to come in there. And sometimes you might hear some stories you don't want to hear, but that's what they want to do. They want to come in and they want to talk to you.
That's awesome. I really like that because, that is part of the skills and talents that you've been given, and use them. All right. And last question. What was your favorite subject when you were in school?
Is recess an acceptable answer? No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, actually, when I was in elementary school, I really loved math. And another cool thing about working in a grocery store is it's a lot of basic math. It's a lot of basic addition and subtraction numbers that you're doing. You don't have these really big, huge numbers, and you don't have to use all this really complicated math. Honestly, for me, like, I have to know, case quantities and things like that. And so sixes and 12s and those, uh,
Multiples.
and yeah, the multiples like that. That's what's helpful to me. So again, I didn't go far in math once I got up to high school, but when I was in elementary school, I loved math. It was always my favorite. I like when things kind of match up and add up.
Math is my jam. My kids know science and math. I'm all in for that. But anyway, Robby, it has been so great to see you, even if it's from one
Right?
computer to another.
Yeah, no cookies here. Sorry.
You could have held one up and haunted
I
us.
could have. That's true. Or I could have sent you some maybe.
There you go. Well, it's been a pleasure. It's so good to see you. And I hope that next year we're back in our school and working hard and going through career day, and that we get to see you then.
Okay.
Thanks so much, boys and girls. Bye. It's so great to see you again. And we'll see you again soon.